I remember when we fitted our first pair of shoes, the kids were like, "This shoe's too big for me," but their feet were already always cramped up. And so when they get a pair of shoes like this, and it may seem so small to us, but this is the smell of hope. You know, and now after they probably worn it for about a month or two, it might be the smell of something else. But,
sure.
But it's the smell of hope, and they get an opportunity to just with a simple tool, get out and open up their world by not getting over hurdles, but knocking the hurdles down. So, you know, we're really thrilled with Brooks Canada and what they've done in partnering. This is about a $500,000 shoe. I mean, it's amazing. I couldn't have done this. This is only by the grace of God that this has come to pass. And you know what they're doing across the country, and it's going to lead up to something that's going to be pretty fun. This is the whole month of April now. You can find out through the KidsFest site or here at crossroads.ca, and they can be a part of this. But
let me just repeat it again. So if you or your kids need any kind of sports equipment, you want to go to a running room, you want to spend $150 worth,
please,
on any Brooks merchandise. Could be a shirt, could be an outfit, could be a pair of shoes for yourself. And that purchase will buy a pair of these shoes, The Pathway,
that's right,
for a needy child.
Correct. And the kids are ahead of the curve, and they're ahead of the game, because this is the technology for 2010, 11, and 12, and even on the colors and everything else. You're absolutely right, you know.
Blow their socks off.
Yeah, go God.
Now, I'm just looking at your very cool jacket here, Brian, and what it represents, not just in the logos. And let's see, we've got our KidsFest logo.
That's right.
We got Brooks over here.
Right.
You got the RCMP on your sleeve.
That's right.
Can we get in there? Right
you
down here.
You got the Mountie always gets his man. There you go.
There he is. The man on the horse. See that? There are other people who didn't make the jacket. The point is that you are just having such great connection. And by the way, your umbrella ministry is Connect, a family of ministries.
That's right.
This is really, it's the right stuff for our times, isn't it, Brian? And I want you to talk about Dr. Richard Ho Lung, who had such a huge influence in the path you've chosen.
Yeah, you know what? When I was interviewing, I think it was around 1995, Richard Ho Lung, Dr. Richard Ho Lung, at the University of the West Indies. He came here, and he's known as the Mother Teresa, the male Mother Teresa of Jamaica. And he quoted a verse. It was a small verse, and it messed me up. Oh, Moira, when he said, "When you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me."
Jesus said that.
Jesus said that in Matthew chapter 25. And he said there were sheep and there were goats, and he said they separated them, and no one could remember what they did. And then I left there. I was so impacted, and I said, you know, what have I done to you? And I said, I got to get busy. I've got, you know, not because I have to, but because I have to. Not because it's going to give me salvation any more or any less, love with God, but because what have I done? I've received so much. What do I possess that I did not receive, and what do I have that I did not get from the Lord? And so it put me on a path, and I started thinking about not only working with men and seeing souls, but Luke's gospel in chapter 10, it says, go into the world. We're talking about the marketplace. And when we connect that with John 1:14, the Word becoming flesh, one of the things that it did to me is it sent me on a path of saying, I need to be connected in the world. Jesus himself would have been in the marketplace. He wouldn't have been sitting in the pews or even in a church, because he's not coming back in a church, he's coming back for a church, one without spot or wrinkle. And we've got to be the salt and light, because he said, you are the light of the world. Now, what we've been able to do is partner with the RCMP across Canada, with the RCMP Foundation, Brooks Canada, who's designed our apparel and also the shirts and all the shoes that we do, and also with banks, with Scotiabank, RBC, Royal Bank, and also TD. And we've been able to work with men and women who have a heart. And one point more, Michael Cassidy said something. He said, you know what, you don't lose anything when you are working for the greater good of humanity. Because during the time of apartheid, he said, I was able to stand shoulder to shoulder with atheists, with Buddhists, with Muslims, because an atrocity was affecting mankind. And it was apartheid that had to be broken. And it couldn't have been broken just by the church, but all humanity had to rise up. there is a scourge that is affecting all humanity, and it's our children, child poverty.
Yes.
And that's why it takes all of us. It takes a village to raise a child.
Well, you are creating community in the effort that God is leading you in to make a difference. Proverbs 19:17, he who is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward him for what he has done.
I believe that.
People are catching that vision. And you know what? I told you to fasten your seatbelts because there's more. There is another event in July. So we've told you about all of April. But July 15th, and I think Sylvia might come back and tell us more about this, but give us
She is. Well, you know what? I've got a Clydesdale body, so don't think that I'm probably the fastest, sleekest runner. If I had to run more than like 10, 15 yards, I was angry, and I had to sack somebody playing football.
Of course.
But we're doing something, and it's really neat, and I need all your help on this as well, to be an ambassador of change. We're doing a run for change. You know, the Running Room, this is their 25th anniversary, and one of the things that they wanted to do in their 25th anniversary is not only just give someone a hat or do something that would celebrate themselves internally, but they wanted to make a difference in all of the communities. And they are the largest independent running store in the world. And they started out of Alberta, John Stanton Sr. and John Stanton Jr. and also Jason. And what they're doing is something called the Run for Change. It's the celebration of their 25th anniversary, but now they're inviting everyone else, all of Canada, to come to one of these 96 stores. And at the time of 7 p.m. on July the 15th, we're going to run for 25 minutes. That doesn't mean that you have to run 25 miles. Now, I could probably get a record for 25 minutes. You know, probably the slowest runner. And, you know, so it's going to be run, walk, or whatever else. But for 25 minutes, and all we're asking people to do is bring change. And your change. Now, Brinks Canada, the RCMP, and also the CFL, as well as a number of other community people and businesses are going to also be bringing their change in and being change ambassadors. But I want Salt and Light to be there as well, so people can pray on July the 15th. But we're going to see how much change we can bring in order to make change in the life of a child.
Okay, so we should be starting to keep that jar or whatever we're going to use
that
handy.
Mason jar, that's right.
Put that change in there because there's a day coming where that's going to make
July
a
the 15th, yes.
difference.
And this is probably the largest run across the country. And in these economic times, you know, we're not asking people for a lot, we're just saying change, because the people that are affected most during these times are the poor and those that are the disadvantaged. And this is going to help us with more running and reading clubs, snacks, and also shoes for kids. We've got a goal of 25,000 pair of shoes that we're going to give out and across Canada.
Right across the country.
Yes.
And then if that's not enough, we've got the CFL helping with a great big celebration. That's down the road. That's
down the road. And we'll tell you more about that, but we're going to bring the Brinks truck in. I've talked to the pinball, and he's really engaged on this, Pinball Clemens. And there will be a day that they will have in order to celebrate all the change that's been raised across Canada.